Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Surah Al-Fatiha. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Ar-Rahmanirrahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim ghayril maghdubi 'alaihim waladdallin. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil. نعم المولى ونعم النصير. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الأول بلا أول كان قبله والآخر بلا آخر يكون بعده الذي قصرت عن رؤيته أبصار الناظرين وأجزت عن ناته أوهام الواصفين. والحمد لله على ما عرفنا من نفسي وألهمنا من شكري. والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ومولانا أبو القاسم محمد وعلى آله طيبين طاهرين المعصومين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله الحكيم في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. صلوات. First and foremost, I would like to send my condolences out to the entire Ahlul Bayt, and especially Imam Zaman, Ajalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif, as we count down to that tragic day, that historical event that happened on the 10th of Muharram. And I send my condolences out to you all as well. And on the way here this evening, I thought about something, and I said, perhaps I have put the horse before the carriage, put the carriage before the horse. Meaning that I took it for granted that my young brothers and sisters know why we gather during the month of Muharram and have these majlis 10 days straight from the beginning to the 10th of Muharram. The reason that we are here, or should I ask this, why are we here? Are we here just to lament a tragic, a catastrophic, and a saddening event? Is that why we're here? To just cry? No. We're here to make sure, as Ayatollah Khomeini, rahmatullahi alayh, has mentioned, to make sure that this event never dies, never goes away, so that it is always remembered. But why should it always be remembered? Sometimes people can learn through reading, and sometimes, more times than not, people learn through observing. There are many decent, as an example, there are many decent mechanics who went to mechanic school and are good. Then there are perhaps people that are better who learned from watching their father. Imam Hussain and his companions and his household, peace be upon all of them, demonstrated the entire religion of Islam. From the time he left Medina, to his arrival in Mecca, to his journey from Mecca to the desert of Karbala, and what took place on Ashura, Imam Hussain and his companions were teaching us through example. Not through lecture, not through a book, but through demonstrating how to be a Muslim, how to traverse or how to travel Siratul Mustaqim. As I've mentioned on numerous occasions, and other Mawlanas have mentioned as well, that Imam Hussain did not teach one aspect of Islam. He did not teach one lesson of it. He did not teach about jihad. He did not teach about sacrifice. Jihad and sacrifice were taught prior through other of the Ahlul Bayt and through other of the Sahabas of Rasulullah and Ahlul Bayt. What Imam was teaching, what Imam Hussain was teaching us was the entire Islam. And if anyone cannot learn Islam in its entirety from the example of Imam Hussain and what took place at Karbala, then you will not learn the religion in any other way, shape, or form, or from any other person, place, or thing. Imam Hussain, in short, taught us how to travel the straight path. And this is not something that's trivial. Because in our prayers, we say at least 10 times a day, Ihdina siratul mustaqim. Allah, guide us to the straight path. If being Muslim means we're on the straight path, then there would be no reason to continually ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us to the straight path. If believing in the walayat of Ahlul Bayt was the straight path, there would be no reason to continually ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us to the straight path. So obviously there is something more than just being a quote-unquote Muslim. Obviously there's something more than being a quote-unquote Shiite. There is something much more. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explains to us in Quran, and we know that Imam Hussain during his time was walking Quran, what exactly traversing the straight path really means. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in Quran, He says, did I not take a covenant from you, children of Adam, that you do not worship the shaitan? Verily he's a manifest enemy to you, and worship me. This is the straight path. This is the siratul mustaqim. Hada siratul mustaqim. So we've mentioned on 2 successive nights that Siratul Mustaqim has 2 aspects, and my young sister elegantly reminded us that Siratul Mustaqim has 2 distinct aspects. The first part is to reject the shaitan, denounce the shaitan, desist immediately from worshiping the idols and the false gods. And then you may say, well, wait a minute, that doesn't apply to me because I don't worship stones. I don't worship idols made out of stone or wood or things of that nature. Unfortunately, the reality is we've changed up. Our idols are now flesh. Our idols are now paper. Our idols are now gold and silver. So we must denounce these idols. And these things in themselves are not bad, but when they become our ilah, when we would do anything for these things, they become our ilah, we must desist from this trapping of shaitan. And then, the other aspect of Siratul Mustaqim, after you have rejected the shaitan, is to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Imam Hussain exemplified this. What did he do? He did not just say, I am going to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and teach the Shia. This is not the straight path. He had to denounce shaitan. He had to oppose shaitan and his forces and the Yazidi forces. He did not make bayat to Yazid. He rejected Yazid and openly opposed Yazid. La ilaha. He rejected the false gods and the false doctrines, etc. And then he manifested illallah by having his soul taken while he was in prostration. He gave his head for the sake of Allah, but he did not give his hand to Yazid. He manifested La ilaha illallah. He demonstrated how we travel the straight path. He showed us how to reject the shaitan. Both shaitans. Shayatul in, which means the shaitan amongst the humans, and the shayatul jinn is the shaitan amongst the jinns. And guess what? They both do the same job. Shaitan and his forces, they whisper. They invite us to do haram. They make sins easy. And also the shaitan amongst the humans, they do the same thing. They invite us to do haram. They invite us to abandon obeying Allah. So he taught us how to obey Allah, which will help combat and defeat the shayatul jinn. And he showed us how to also defeat the shayatul in by opposing them, by rejecting them, by denouncing them. And he did this in Karbala. And his companions also did this. Now obviously, we have to go a little bit deeper. Because we say, okay, we get it now, Sheikh Yusuf. You have to reject the shaitan and obey Allah. Okay, that's easier said than done. How can you reject shaitan if you don't know anything about him? How can you fight shaitan if you don't know anything about him? You don't know his qualities, you don't know his tactics, and you don't know his weapons. So how can you effectively defeat him? And we know unless you defeat him and wage jihad against him, you're not going to get to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're not going to get to Ahlul Bayt until you denounce him, until you reject him, until you wage life or death battle against shaitan. So obviously it's very important to do what? To learn about this opponent, to learn about this enemy who is out to destroy us, and as you can see by just looking around, has been very successful. Which is why we're here. We're not just here to cry over Imam Hussain. We're also to re-emphasize the lessons that he was trying to teach mankind. He was doing something. He was showing us something. And many of us have been duped by shaitan to think, I just go on these successive nights, shed a couple tears, and I'm good to go. And not realize what Imam Hussain was trying to show us, what Imam Hussain was trying to teach us, what Imam Hussain was trying to demonstrate to us, what Imam Hussain wanted us to do after him. He was passing the baton. This is like a relay race. The one who is running the first stretch will pass the baton to the one coming after. And Imam Hussain was passing the baton not to the Maulanas, not to the sheikhs, not to the Marja. He was passing the baton to everyone who claims to be his Shia. Many of us have been duped by shaitan to think that the only people that are responsible for keeping alive the legacy of Imam Hussain, for keeping alive his teachings, are the ulama. This is one of the many tricks of shaitan. Each and every one of us, young and old, male or female, have a duty to keep alive the teachings of Imam Hussain. Not just to remember it, not just to cry over it, but to go through it, to analyze what took place, and to teach it to our children, male or female. This is a duty. Salawat if you understand this far. So it is, I want to try to find a word that is even more important than important. It is imperative. It is dire. Or it is, failure is not an option when it comes to learning about shaitan. Because Imam Hussein's battlefield was Karbala. And our battlefield is wherever we're standing, at whatever time of day we're standing there. Shaitan is waging a never-ending assault on us. And there is no taking breaks. He assaults us in wakefulness and in sleep. So this is not a joke. We need to learn the qualities of shaitan. Why? Why do we need to know the qualities of shaitan? When I mean qualities, characteristics, shaitan's nature. Why do we need to know his nature? We need to know his nature and his characteristics, because if we have any of those characteristics or we have any of those natural tendencies, we need to get rid of them, or we are classified as shaitani. We know that shaitan is a jealous one. That's part of his nature. This is part of his makeup. He is jealous. He thinks he is superior to everyone. If you think you're superior because you're from India, if you think you're superior because you're from Pakistan, if you think you're superior because you're from Iran, if you think you're superior because you're from Iraq, if you think you're superior because you're Syed, then you have a quality of shaitan. Because no one is superior to anyone else except who has more taqwa. So be mindful and aware of not having a characteristic of who? Shaitan. Lose it immediately, if not sooner. We know that shaitan, one of his characteristics, he does not take the blame for anything. He will always pass the blame to someone else. Well, the reason I don't wear hijab is because the people at my school. The reason I don't offer prayers is because my mother and father don't. You have a responsibility to yourself. On the day of Yawm al-Qiyamah, There is no kinship. You are on your own. Shaitan always passes the blame, never takes credit for what he does. If you want credit for your good deeds, take the blame for your bad deeds. Because if you do not take the blame for your bad deeds, you have a quality of who? Shaitan. We know that Shaitan is not about justice. Shaitan, one of his characteristics, he's about revenge. If someone does you wrong and you are not concerned with justice, you are concerned with revenge and payback, then you have a quality of Shaitan. We need to lose it. We know that Shaitan also, when he has a problem with someone, he does what? Takes it out on who? The one who has a problem with, or who? Does he take it out on the innocent people? So it's important that we know, and there are other characteristics of Shaitan. So it's very important that we know Shaitan's qualities, so first and foremost we can get rid of them if we have them. So we have to know his qualities to make sure that we're not Shaitani. Because if we're Shaitani, we're not Shiites. So we need to, the Ahlul Bayt, they teach us how to self-assess. That's the beauty of Ahlul Bayt. People say, Sheikh, you've been Sunni. So what is the difference between Sunni and Shia? There's a few thick issues, not as many as you think, mind you. But the main thing is that the Ahlul Bayt teach us how to self-assess, self-diagnose, and self-medicate. So they just don't teach us this or that. They teach us this and that and tell us how to continually assess ourselves, analyze ourselves, diagnose ourselves, and they teach us how to medicate. So you look in the mirror and say, you know what? I have such and such qualities, and Ahlul Bayt will say, well, this is how you get rid of that. By doing this or that. Obviously, offering prayers helps get rid of a lot of things, but that's the beauty of the teachings of Ahlul Bayt. We truthfully, and listen, if you're going to blow smoke up the tailpipe of someone else, at least don't blow it up your own tailpipe. Be truthful to at least to your own self. Don't have a false sense of strength. Don't have a false sense of you're out of harm's way concerning Sirat al-Mustaqim, because guess what? Maybe you didn't get the memo. No one should be content with their spiritual position. Every day Allah gives us breath, we should be trying to be better than the day before. Shaitan lulls us to sleep. You're okay. You're at every modulus. You're okay. You know, you gave some money to some people the other day. These are some of Shaitan's tactics. But we need to know his qualities. We also need to know his plots and his schemes. Why do we need to know his plots and his schemes? It's a no-brainer. So we don't fall for them. And listen, here's the thing about Shaitan. I want to arouse your anger. Shaitan thinks so low of you. Does Shaitan hide his playbook? He tells you exactly what he's going to do. I'm going to misguide them. I'm going to arouse their lower desires. And I'm going to make them split the ears of cattle. Let me explain to you, for my young brothers and sisters, clear. Who knows the game of baseball? Doesn't mean you like it, but who knows the game of baseball? Okay. Here it is. I'm the pitcher. You know, I'm going to be the pitcher and you're the batter. This is how Shaitan is. I think so low of you, I'm going to tell you what pitch I'm going to throw. I'm going to tell you when I'm going to get ready to throw it. And I'm going to still strike you out. Think about that. So I don't have any respect for you at all. Listen, I'm telling Barry Bonds, I'm about to throw a fastball right down the pike. Get ready for it. Are you ready? Here it comes, and still strike him out. Or I'm a soccer player. You know, I'm John Beckman or whoever. And I'm like, listen, this is the play we're going to run. I'm going to come down the middle. I'm going to pass it to my wingman or whatever that guy is over there. I'm going to run over here to the corner of the net. He's going to pass it back, and I'm going to score on you. Are you ready? Here it comes. And still score. Is this respect or is this disrespect? Shaitan says, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do to you and still get you guys with it. So you should be saying, you know what? And guess what? Is he not been successful? Who has more followers, Allah or Shaitan? So he's been striking us out left and right. He's been scoring goal after goal. Think about it. So we should be like, hey, this is it. We got to get a grip. Because guess what? When we're at the center and we have a dispute with each other, we always got to get the last laugh. We always got to have the last word. We don't want to be defeated. Male or female, we don't want to be defeated. We don't want to be defeated physically. We don't want to be defeated in any verbal disputes. We don't want to be defeated. But we are almost cowardly against shaitan. Day after day, month after month, year after year, he does the stupidest things, makes us fall for the stupidest tricks, and we don't get angry and say enough is enough. This is it. So we need to know his plots and his schemes. And obviously, 100 days aren't enough days, 3-hour lectures to go into detail his different tactics. Let me ask you this, my brothers and sisters. Was Shaitan born an expert at misguiding? No. He went through trial and error. First things first, everything that he fell for himself, he'll start there. Because he figures if I'm a genius and I fell for this, I know these monkeys will. Yeah, that's what he thinks of us. Doesn't matter what color you are. As much racism as we will have against each other, Shaitan doesn't like any of us. Calls us all monkeys. Think about it. So he says, if I fell for these things, then I know they will. So that's what he starts with first. And then if it works, he'll improve on it. And if it doesn't work, back to the drawing board. But this is what he does. And now, thousands of years later, he's very much on his game. And he's taught his team very well. He's very successful. And if you notice and you pay attention, his plots and his schemes are much more intriguing. See, his shaitan doesn't come with falsehood. Yeah, I said it. Shaitan doesn't come with falsehood. He doesn't come with just pure 100% batil. And we know he's not coming with haqq. So listen to what I said. I want you to think. Shaitan is not coming with haqq. He's not coming with truth at all. Pure truth. He's not coming with that. And he's so smart, he's not even coming with 100% falsehood. Why? Because you'll see that easily. That's false. I'm not falling for that. So what does Shaitan do? This should show you how much of a thinker he is. He mixes haqq and batil, which makes it even much more difficult for the average person who could care less to decipher it, to weed through it. It's very difficult for the average to take the sense out of the nonsense. Ahlul Bayt says, listen, follow what we tell you to do, don't do what we don't tell you to do, and you're good to go. You don't have to worry about anything. But most of us say, you know what? I'll take my chances. Picture this. Ahlul Bayt is saying, my Shia, I want you to be safe, so I want you to go this direction, follow this path. Think of some woods, a wooded area, and there's a trail through it. And the Ahlul Bayt say, my young sister, my young brother, go this way and you'll be safe. But your own intellect says, you know what? I'm going to go that way. I'm going to take my chances. That's what we do. And when we go that way and we go this way, every other way than Ahlul Bayt say, we're in harm's way. And more times than not, we fall victim to shaitan. One way, shape, or form. So we need to know his plots and his tactics. And we also need to know his weapons. We know that one of his characteristics is hasad, jealousy. But obviously, as I mentioned, someone mentioned yesterday about hasad, and I kind of brushed it to the side because that is one of his characteristics. He's jealous. Or a matter of fact, more importantly, he's arrogant. But one of his weapons is hasad. He will use that. He'll use that as a weapon. So that's also one of his weapons. So we need to be mindful. And we also mentioned that one of his tactics is that, look at how smart he is. He goes after who first? Who would he prefer to corrupt? The youth. Because if he can corrupt the seed, then it's going to be a corrupt fruit. It's going to be a corrupt flower. And it's going to be hard to uncorrupt that. It's going to be a much more of a jihad to remove all of this stuff, which we're going through now. So many things that we consider teachings of Ahlul Bayt that are not, you will almost get killed trying to oppose it. Now let me also add this while we're there. If you send a loud salawat. Just think, we're not going to mention Ahlul Bayt for a moment. We're going to mention the companions of Ahlul Bayt in the desert of Karbala. Imagine, ladies, you imagine this. Imagine looking ahead of you, and then looking behind you, and then looking ahead of you again. Ahead of you, all across the horizon, you see soldiers. From one end of the horizon to the next end of the horizon, you see different colored flags for the different tribes. You see horsemen, foot soldiers. As far as you can see, you see soldiers and flags. And you look behind you and you see a small group of individuals. And then you look back and you see that large group of soldiers again. And guess what? Even though the ladies of Ahlul Bayt were crying and in tears, why were they crying and why were they in tears? Was it because they did not want the men to fight? No, they did want the men to fight. They even were upset because some of them didn't even have sons who could represent them in the battlefield. So they were only crying because of the way that they were killed. You know, their loved ones were killed. Or the fact their loved ones were killed at the hands of those who claimed to be Prophet Muhammad's followers. Or the fact that they were going to miss their loved ones. But by all means, I'm going to use a phrase that is common nowadays. They were telling the men of the companions of Imam Hussein, handle your business. By no means were they saying, don't go, don't go. They were saying, handle your business. So even the ladies were displaying what? Bravery and courage. Their crying and tears were only due to missing or seeing bloodshed or this and that. But by no means were they saying, don't go. So understand that. Now the men who were going out to combat, who were seeing this same sight, looking ahead of them and seeing the massive army, looking behind them and seeing the numbers that are dwindling. And they still say, you know what? Bring it on. Now look at that difficulty. And look at that bravery. Now let me explain you what I learned from Imam Hussain. Because in this day and time, we have the same battle. You have certain Maulanas who are loyal to Ahlul Bayt, who their lecturing is not a business. They don't care if they're not invited back. They are going to give you haq, 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 no matter if there are masses of Shia that are opposing them. They look back and say, these are only the few Shia who are loyal to Ahlul Bayt. They'll get called kafir, they'll get called this and that for saying the truth. And they still stand up because this is a teaching of Ahlul Bayt on different levels. There are the Maulanas, and this is why I mentioned in the first lecture that there are a lot of reasons we should be crying. The Maulanas should be crying. Those who are, nowadays, we should be more angry than sad. We don't have time to be sad. If we were all following the teachings of Ahlul Bayt, then we can all be sad. We can all just cry. Let's just let the tears go. But we're not there. We need to educate, so we need to be mad. And why are we mad? Because either we are not upholding the teachings of Ahlul Bayt, we ourselves have been dishonoring Ahlul Bayt, we ourselves have, Imam Hussain is sacrificed for us specifically and individually and collectively, and we're not doing our part. So we should be angry at ourselves and the community in general for not appreciating the sacrifice, right? But the scholars, first and foremost, should be crying, the ones who say this is a business, and I'm not going to tell you the truth because I want to be invited back next Muharram. That's betrayal of the teachings of Ahlul Bayt. So this is why the scholars should be crying. And the ladies should be crying because even though I don't wear the veil, and even though, how were the ladies of Ahlul Bayt humiliated? What was removed from them? What were they forced to do for hundreds of miles through the desert? Travel with the veils removed. So much so that Imam Sajjad alayhi salatu wasalam said to one guy, please walk up there with the head so the people would focus on the heads instead of the ladies of Ahlul Bayt. It was humiliating for the ladies of Ahlul Bayt to not have the what? You don't have to whisper. It was humiliating for the ladies of Ahlul Bayt to not have the veil. Right. So we who claim to be followers of Bibi Fatima and followers of Bibi Zainab will take it off voluntarily. Shimmer got to take theirs off. Umar ibn Sa'd got to yank theirs off. Or I'll take mine off voluntarily. We should be angry at ourselves. This is enough to evoke tears. Or Imam Hussain, who died so we can offer prayers. Tonight we're going to speak about Habib ibn Mudahir. And the one thing that he said was, he was defending the prayer. And we'll get into that a little bit. So how was it? Imam Hussain died so that we can pray. even in the desert of Karbala, they still emphasize the prayer, the importance of the prayer, and then we don't pray and then consider ourselves Shia of Ahlul Bayt. Think about it. So we need to be crying and sad with ourselves more than just in shock or trying to shed crocodile tears over the horrific event. Because shedding tears over Karbala is good. But you have to add with it some other tears for falling short. And not even falling short through lack of effort, but falling short from not trying at all. This is that day and time. And why are we in this particular state, which Imam Hussain is very well aware of, which Bibi Zainab is very well aware of, which Bibi Fatima Zahra is very well aware of, alayhimus salam. Why are we in this state? Because many of us did not know about shaitan. Many of us belittled shaitan. Many of us underestimated shaitan. And he has trapped us in our own devices. So it is imperative that we get a clue and we learn about our enemy and we attack him. Salawat if this is correct. Now, to move forward, we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not create shaitan. He created a jinn who, through disobedience, no, let me stop. How did shaitan, how did Azazel, how did Iblis become Iblis? What did he do?
Disobeyed Allah.
Right. Just understand this. Before Adam was created, there was the jinn. There was two species. I don't want to go into too much detail. There were the jinn and the nisna. Many scientists, they call them the man and semi-man. They have the bones of some of these individuals, but the jinn. Iblis was among them, and all they did. Why do you think the angel said in the Quran, he said, Allah will create a race that all they do is shed blood? They were referring to the other species that were on the planet before Adam, before our Adam. That's all they did was fight. Okay, anyway, just to speed up. So, Shaitan, before he was Shaitan, he was amongst them. He made dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be removed from there. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepted his dua and made him come up amongst the angels. That's why many religions think that Shaitan was a fallen angel. He wasn't a fallen angel. Yes, he was beautiful. And yes, his buddies, his homeboys, and his companions were archangels. Jibreel, Iblis used to hang out with Jibreel. He used to hang out with Mikael. He used to hang out with Israfil. He knew all the angels, first name basis, and hung out with them. Okay, he was respected by them and they accepted him as a brother. Okay, Allah answered his dua and he brought him there. So, did he not know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala truly existed? Did he not know that the angels truly existed? Did he not know that the Anbiya were truly authentic and real? So he had no doubts about God's existence. We have doubts about God's existence. Our effort or lack of effort proves that. But Shaitan had no doubt about God's existence. So when you call him a kafir, or when Allah calls him a kafir, it had nothing to do with doubting Allah's existence. He had no doubt about Allah's existence. I'm driving this home, emphasizing. It was his disbelief. No, it was his please help me, my young brothers and sisters. It was his disobedience. It was his It was his disobedience that caused Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to say, get out. We will live what? Maybe 60 years, possibly 70 years, 100 maybe. Shaitan lived and worshipped properly for many years. And as soon as he disobeyed, that was it. Allah does not play. Imam Hussain showed us through his actions, it's about obeying Allah. Did Imam Hussain not know what was going to happen to him when he got to a certain age and when he got to a certain land and when he went through certain trials and tribulations? You think Imam Ali didn't tell him that in his youth, in his childhood? Of course he did. There are narrations that told him that tell us that. So he was very well aware of what was going to happen in the future. And even though everyone gave him advice not to go, he was still going to go because he knew that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted him to go. So he was going to be obedient to who? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he's demonstrating being obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because being obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only way to defeat Shaitan. So he manifested this. The imams were asked, I forget which one, alayhimus salam, peace be upon all of them. I'm trying to think. Well, anyway, what he said was, and you'll get from his answer, he said, you are better than us. And not literally, he meant figuratively, because we have to display sabr, and we know what's going to happen. You have to display sabr, and you don't know what's going to happen. And which is more difficult? Not knowing. Obviously, we're not better than Ahlul Bayt, so understand that. But he was showing figuratively the difficulty of it. Imam Hussain knew what was going to happen to him. The ladies of Ahlul Bayt, the ladies who were tutored by Imam Ali, who were tutored by Imam Hassan, and tutored by Imam Hussain, were well aware of what they were facing. But why didn't they oppose it? Why didn't they reject it? Why weren't they angry about it? Why didn't they say, let me stay home? Why? Because they were obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted, they wanted it. That's why people ask, well, why is it hard for some people to cry? Why is it? It's not meaning you don't feel emotion. It's because why would you be too sad over something that Imam Hussain himself wanted? How can you be too sad over something that Imam Hussain gained success? We're sad over the way he was treated. We're sad over the way the women were treated. We're sad over the way it's horrible to visualize. But he wanted it. That's why his rank is superior than all, superior to most of the other A'immah. The Imam, I believe Imam Rida alayhi salatu wasalam was asked, if we could only visit, one Imam, who should we visit? Imam Hussain. Imam Hussain. So we have to display this courage against Shaitan and fight him, because his existence is good and he's the test. Now just to review, because some people weren't here yesterday, Shaitan is a good thing. I'll go even one step further. Jahannam, the hellfire, is also a good thing. Everything Allah created, if you are a believer, is a good thing. Because the hellfire is like a strike of lightning for a youth. A child is young age, hears that, well, they'll see the lightning strike in the horizon and hear that thunderous roar, and they'll fly across the room and jump into Baba or Amma's arms. So that fear of the lightning made them get closer to their parents. So is the lightning bad or good? Good. So the hellfire is supposed to have that same effect. You're aware of the hellfire, you fear the hellfire, and you flee to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what it's supposed to be for. So Shaitan also, for a believing man or believing woman, is a good thing, because Shaitan can prove their strength. And how can you increase rank with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Can you do it without taking tests, or you have to take tests?
You have to take tests.
And so if you have to take tests to improve your rank with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you have to go through Shaitan. So he's a good thing. We don't fear him. We're like, okay, I've been studying, I've been doing my prayers, I've been fasting, I've been doing all the wajibat, even mustahabat, and all these other things. And bring it on, Shaitan. I'm going to whoop you and now send your next guy. That's how we think about Shaitan. He's a good thing. And also, there are many things that Shaitan teaches us. First of all, everyone has a date to die. No, let me stop. I left this out yesterday. There was something that Shaitan taught us. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cursed him and rejected him in this and that, Shaitan said, but I've worshipped you for thousands of years. What about my reward? And he said, well, I'll give you whatever you want, but only in this dunya. You're not getting any hereafter. Now, Shaitan asked to live until the end of time. He asked for that. He had a date to die. He asked for that. The species of jinn, the jinn, they have dates to die. They live longer than us, but they have a birth date and a death date. Shaitan specifically asked to live until the end of time. His particular species. There are different species of jinn. Okay, he requested Allah, can I live for eternity? He said, granted. He said, I also want to be invisible. He was not always invisible. He requested to be unseen. He also requested, he said, Allah, for every child of Adam that's born, I want 2 born of my species. He requested these things. Okay? But guess what he didn't request? Why didn't he ask for forgiveness and for another chance? Do you think if he said, Allah, please forgive me and give me another chance, Allah wouldn't have accepted that? What did he ask for? Everything that Shaitan asked for, for all of the worship that he did for thousands of years, what did he want as compensation for that? Dunya. For all of the worship that Shaitan did for thousands of years, the compensation that he wanted was dunya. This is a quality of Shaitan. Those who are Shaitani, for all of their worship, all they want is dunya things. This is what we also learn from Shaitan. For all of his worship, he is not concerned, can care less about Jannah. He could care less about Akhirah. All he wanted is dunya. This is a lesson we're supposed to learn and say, wait a minute. Why do you think Allah says in the Quran, those who say we want good in this life, and what does Allah say concerning that? No. What do we say? رَبَّنَا أَتِينَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. There's an ayat before that. Allah says, those who say, Allah, give us good in this life and good in this next life, and they'll receive their reward. But what about those who prior say, all we want is good in this life? What does Allah say about that? Nothing good. So the quality of Shaitan is that in exchange for his worship, he wants dunya. So when we're offering our night prayers, what are we asking for? A new car, or to be, to reside in the precincts of Ahlul Bayt in the Jannah? When we're offering our prayers, are we asking for, our business to make 6 more million, add to the 10 million we already got, or are we asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us fear of Allah? Well, we should be. Inshallah, you guys are doing this, but the adults should be doing this. But more times than not, we will do things that Shaitan does. Only ask for dunya. How many often say, oh Allah, such and such and such and such, please let me reside with Ahlul Bayt in the next life. Oh Allah, please let me fear you as if I see you. Oh Allah, please detach me from this dunya. Oh Allah, please do this or that will give me a higher rank with you. This is almost absurd to request from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala these days. We want dunya stuff. We want dunya stuff. So Shaitan, one thing that we learn from him is that in return for his worship for thousands of years, not for 65, not for 25, not for 10, for thousands of years, all he wanted was dunya. And we also know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kept him alive for thousands of years to misguide the people. So obviously, if you understand that, it's not hard for you to believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kept Imam al-Zaman, ajalallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif, alive for 1200 years to guide the people. And understand this. Also, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala realized that Shaitan is in occultation. Shaitan is actually in a form of occultation. So his occultation is also another proof of Imam al-Zaman's occultation. Ajalallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif. So there are many things that we can learn from Shaitan. There are many things that we can learn about Islam that we couldn't learn if Shaitan did not exist. So he's beneficial. He's beneficial to us. Even more importantly, it's through him that we increase our rank with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But in order to defeat him, we have to know about him. We have to know about him. And we're learning. We're learning. Now, obviously, as we move forward, we've talked about some of his characteristics. We've talked about a few of his plots and schemes. For example, we mentioned that, he attacks aggressively the children and also the women. And then the men, in that order. Women are emotional. He plays on the emotions. And also the children, he goes for them because, he can bribe them with candies and toys and all these other things. So we understand that. And every false holiday or holy day, that these pagan things, it's always designed to attract the children. Now, we also understand that, those are one of his schemes. And we also know that he has weapons. So tonight, inshallah ta'ala, we're going to talk about one of his best weapons. Hasad, jealousy, envy. Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam said, hasad is the worst of all diseases, meaning spiritual or otherwise. It's the worst of all diseases. And Imam Bakr alayhi salatu wasalam, he also said that hasad eats up faith like fire eats firewood. Hasad. Hasad is the worst of all diseases. And hasad, jealousy, eats up iman, eats up faith like fire eats up firewood. So obviously this is no joke. And as I've mentioned, that 9/10 of hasad is amongst ulama. That's serious. That's a serious thing. Hasad. Does anybody have an example from Quran where shaitan used this weapon successfully? I'll give you a hint. Habil and Qabil. Qabil became jealous of Habil. Why? Because Adam alayhi salatu wasalam was instructed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that his successor would be his son Habil, Abel in English. And Qabil, who was older, didn't like that idea too much. Remember that here's that older thing again, that age thing popping up. But he felt that he deserved to be the successor. And the reality is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chooses who he wants to be successor. No human has any say-so in the matter, then or any time after. It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who chooses. But understand this, ladies and gentlemen, young and old. Is hasad a sin? Is hasad a sin? No. To feel hasad inside is not a sin, but it only comes out in the form of sin. Backbiting, slander, and even murder. Qabil killed his own brother Habil because of hasad. So this is a serious thing. And like I've mentioned, you talk about another Maulana that you like in front of another Maulana, and you'll feel the burning eyes. You'll feel the burning eyes. Hasad. Hasad, the only way it comes out is sinfulness. And understand this, let me add this. Most of the A'immah, alayhimu salam, they were not in position to revolt against the Caliph of their time. They weren't planning any revolts. All they were doing was teaching. But their fame, the love that people had, most, if not all of the A'immah were killed deep down and truthfully because of hasad. Yazid was jealous of Imam Hussain. Muawiyah, his father, told him to leave him alone. But Yazid was jealous of Imam Hussain, among other things. Obviously he was shaitani, but he was jealous of him. Just think, you are very well aware of many narrations about the A'immah have been on pilgrimage. You know, it's very hard to get to the Black Stone. Some khulafa were there, whoever the Khalif was of the time, he's trying to get to the Black Stone. It's crowded, he can't get there. Some young youth will come through. It'll part like the sea. He walks up, he has a clear path. Like, who are these guys that everyone respects them and loves them? And then they'll mention these are the son of this one and the son of that one, meaning the A'immah, and they would automatically become jealous. They would display hasad, jealousy. Look what happened with Imam Rida alayhi salatu wasalam. Ma'mun, tried his intriguing plot. And he thought it would backfire, and people started loving Imam Rida alayhi salatu wasalam. He's like, go lead the Eid prayers. Oh, forget it. Don't lead the Eid prayers. Change our colors to green. No, don't change the colors to green, because they're starting loving him, loving the Imam more than they already did, and he became jealous. And we know that jealousy only comes out in haram ways. Murder was the case with the A'immah. Jealousy. Allah mentions in Quran about those who are jealous of whom He bestows His bounties upon. And in reality, truth be told, that those who truly have Ahlul Bayt, everyone who doesn't are jealous of them. That can be applied to those who are totally outside the teachings of Ahlul Bayt, and it could be applied to under the umbrella of Ahlul Bayt. Those who are sincere to Ahlul Bayt are jealous of those who are not so sincere of Ahlul Bayt. Hasad. Think about it. That's why when you have positions in the community, in all the communities, somebody is jealous. Why is he that position? Why is she in that position? I should be doing this. Hasad. Now we have to, for my young brothers and sisters and those who are my peers and my respected elders, first of all, what is hasad? What is jealousy? What is hasad? What does being jealous mean? Bismillah. Alhamdulillah. There are two types of jealousy. There's ghibta and there's hasad. Ghibta is when you aspire to be like someone who is better than you. This is good. His beard is long and you want to grow yours like his. His prostration mark is big because he really prays a lot and you want yours to be like that, so you pray more. These are good aspirations. Ahlul Bayt are the best and you want to do your best to be like your hero, Imam Ali or Imam Hussain. And that's what we should be doing concerning Imam Hussain specifically. We want to do our best to be like Imam Hussain. And the closer you are to Imam Hussain, you'll go through similar struggles like Imam Hussain did. So that is aspiring to be like someone who is better than you. This is a ghibta and this is good. I want to be religious like such and such. This is good. I want to be like Salman Farsi. I want to be like Abu Dhar. I want to be like Miqdad, etc., etc. This is good. This is not bad. But hasad is when you want someone who has a high level or something better than you to come down to your level. You wish that their blessings were taken away. There's a difference. Ghibta, you want to be good like those who are better than you. Hasad is you don't want to be like them, you want them to come down to your level. You want whatever blessing that they have to be taken away. And obviously this is implied in the highest level when Ahlul Bayt's blessings, so many people hated them for imamat in their house, nubuwat in their house, risalat in their house. They hated Ahlul Bayt because of all these blessings that were in their house. In fact, someone said, we hate that imamat is also in the house of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Specifically, it was said, we hated that in addition to prophecy being in the house of Bani Hashim, we also don't want the caliphate to be in the house as well. This was an example of hasad. Hasad. Hasad, jealousy, caused people to take away a right that belonged to Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam. They couldn't handle it. You mean we got Prophet Muhammad and Bani Hashim and Amir al-Mu'mineen? Oh no, it's not going down like that. Hasad. And as a result, they're doomed for eternity in Jahannam because of hasad. And at the end of the day, it's Shaitan who aroused these ideas. What did Shaitan say to Qabil? Listen, not only is your brother younger than you, you're older than him, but guess what? His descendants are going to brag against your descendants that, our forefather is the successor. I mean, he was hitting them all in every corner about how, one group is going to tease his ancestors. He was arousing jealousy to the highest level of jealousivity. I just made that word up. But he was arousing him in almost every way you have to be really irate to kill your brother. So he was arousing him, successfully. And now, let me just add this real brief, just a side note. When Adam finally died, okay, Qabil killed Habil. Salawat if you're with me thus far. Okay. Now, just a side note, I want to put in the back of your mind. When Adam finally died, in addition to Shaitan arousing Hasad so that Cain can kill his brother Abel, when Adam alayhi salam died, guess what Shaitan did? Guess what Shaitan innovated? Guess what Shaitan encouraged Qabil to do once again? Now Qabil, first of all, he committed the first murder. Qabil committed the first murder. Now when his father died, side note, but I want you to put in the back of your mind, what did Shaitan invent with Qabil? I don't expect anyone to get it. This was the first time Shaitan established music and musical instruments. They made a primitive type of musical instrument and celebrated the death of Adam. And Imam Sadiq said all music and musical forms come from that. So all music and musical instruments, which Rasulullah said, I have come as a mercy and to destroy, mercy to the world, and also destroy all musical instruments and so on and so forth. All of this is a sunnah of who? Ahlul Bayt or Shaitan? Shaitan, yes. Shaitan established music. Just keep that as a side note. Just put that back here, in case I'm not alive to continue on. Shaitan established music. It was primitive during the time of the death of Adam, and then it evolved from that. But it all came from the seed that who planted? Shaitan. And as a result, we're using musical instruments and singing to glorify Ahlul Bayt. Ya Allah. One of the tricks of Shaitan. Let me stop and pause for a second there. This is the sunnah of Shaitan. Remember I said, I recited from the Quran that Shaitan will misguide them. He said, I will misguide them. I will arouse their desires and I'll make them slit the ears of cattle. What is split the ears of cattle? It means he will make the people do stupid things. For example, what in the world is this? People think this will stop bullets. Shaitan started that. You've seen this before. I don't want to disrespect any religion, but you've seen this. Do this. Or we'll go and do stuff. Or people will go to pictures of the Virgin Mary and they won't put on a hijab like her, but they'll kiss her. Or they'll do all these other things. Shaitan established these sunnahs. Let me give you an example before I get to the closing. There was a lady who was married to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. When she should have been in her home, she was waging war against Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wasalam. Right? Aroused by Shaitan. This camel that she was riding, the people became so engrossed in it that they would even take the feces of it and put it on them, consider it was a blessing. Yeah, read the history. So Imam Ali said after the Battle of Jamal, kill the camel and even burn it. Because they began to worship this like in the time of Samiri when they worshiped the gold calf. It was Shaitan that had the people having a camel, taking this camel as an idol. And parading around with the camel and even taking the feces of it and putting it on them thinking it's a blessing. Which had no meaning whatsoever, no value whatsoever. These type and other similar things, some will catch me and some won't. If you caught me, then it's meant for you to catch me. If you don't, then it wasn't. These type of similar absurdities were established by Shaitan. Ahlul Bayt has given no authority for some of these things that we do. Shaitan, look at what we do. Is there anything we do similar to what was done with the camel in the Battle of Jamal? Do we take any animals and parade them around? Do we take any feces from them and make it as a blessing? It was done before. And Shaitan aroused it. Be mindful, be very aware. Shaitan is smarter than you and me and every Maulana put together. He's been around all of the Anbiya. He's been around all of the prophets and imams. He knows what the truth is, this is why he's so successful in misguiding. He doesn't bring haqq, he doesn't bring batil, he mixes the two. He says, I will misguide them, I will arouse their desires, and I'll make them slit the ears of cattle. I'll make them do stupid things, thinking that they're getting close to Allah. Those people who paraded around that camel, those people who put that feces on them, really and truly thought that they were getting closer to? Say it. Allah. Were they getting closer to Allah? If that was the case, Imam Ali wouldn't have said, kill the camel and burn it. True or false? Listen, Shaitan is out to destroy us. Do you understand that? Shaitan is out to destroy us. Where does Shaitan live? Where does Shaitan live?
Everywhere.
Sirat al-Mustaqim. Anywhere truth is being propagated, anywhere truth is being taught, Shaitan is waging an all-out assault. Is that Salawat if you understand me? I didn't say it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said it in what book? He says, I will, just like you misguided me, I will lie and wait for them on what path? Sirat al-Mustaqim. So the closer you are to the truth, Shaitan is going to be there in less force or even more force. He's going to bring his weakest soldiers or his best soldiers. Beware, my brothers and sisters. Beware, my brothers and sisters. Beware, my brothers and sisters. Habib ibn Muzahir, he was aware. He was aware. He was a loyal companion of Imam Hussain. He was also companion of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was a companion of Imam Ali and fought in all the war. He was a companion of Rasulullah and was with Imam Ali through all of his battles. He proved his mettle. He kept true to his promise to Ahlul Bayt. He escorted Imam Hussain on his journey in that hot desert, looking out, see the enemy in your mind's eye. And all you can see across the horizon is the enemy. And you just have a few companions and women and children. But Habib, his name was fitting because he truly loved Ahlul Bayt. He also assisted Muslim ibn Aqil alayhi salatu wasalam when he was accepting bayat for Imam Hussain and gathering weaponry for Imam Hussain and preparing for the arrival of Imam Hussain. He proved his mettle time and time again. And Imam Hussain, look at this teaching. Look at this teaching. In this battlefield, Imam Hussain said, listen, told his companions, tell the enemy to remove their hands from us until prayer is finished. Tell them to cease the war until we can offer the prayers. And Hassan ibn Tamam, guess what he said to the Imam? Guess what he yelled out? Your prayers aren't accepted. And Habib ibn Mudahir, he yelled back, so you say the prayers of the Ahlul Bayt of Rasulullah are not accepted, and your prayers, you wine drinker, are accepted? And obviously those are fighting words, so Hassan attacked. He attacked Habib, and Habib hit him with a blow on the head with the sword and threw him from his horse. And luckily, the coward's companions came and rescued him before he was finished. And then battle waged. They continued. And Habib was hit with a blow on his head and he fell. And while he was trying to get up, he was hit several more times. And what was he fighting for? Who was he defending? Who was he sacrificing his life for? Who was he obedient to? What promise did he keep as he laid there with his head leaking? Imam Hussain saw this, lowered his head and said, I leave myself and my companions to Allah's accountability. Habib, he truly loved Ahlul Bayt. And it's all just like Hur. His mother named him accordingly because he was free being attached to Ahlul Bayt. And Habib was truly a love. He was truly a lover of Ahlul Bayt. And it's amazing because as we don't like to offer our prayers, or we neglect our prayers, or we pray without even focusing on our prayers, Habib died before he can offer the moon prayers with his Imam. He died, he was martyred before he can offer his prayers with his Imam for one last time. Are we supposed to just remember Habib and what he did? Or are we supposed to emulate him? We should be concerned about the prayers. We should be loyal to Ahlul Bayt. We should keep our promises. Like Hur, like Muslim ibn Awsajah, and like Habib ibn Mudahir. They all kept true to their promise. And they all died pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and defending their Imam. We must follow suit. We defend our Imam by keeping his religion alive. The true religion of Ahlul Bayt. Yazid, the leader of the enemy forces, drank khamr. He played with monkeys. He was a fornicator. He had nothing to do with Islam. But he pretended to have everything to do with Islam. And Imam opposed him. He rejected him. He exposed him. And Habib, we can't say, oh, Ahlul Bayt, they do all these miraculous things. Okay, Habib wasn't Ahlul Bayt, but he was a true lover of Ahlul Bayt. He was a true follower of Imam Hussain. He was a true follower of Imam Ali. He was a true follower of Imam Hassan. He was a true follower of Rasulullah. He never once betrayed Ahlul Bayt. We must follow suit. Habib should be our hero. We just don't cry over his martyrdom. We should strive to be like him. Or even if we can be similar to one of his bootstraps. He demonstrated keeping his promise to Allah and to Ahlul Bayt. He rejected the shaitan. And he died defending Islam, defending Imam Hussain, who was the epitome, he was the exemplar of Islam. Let's follow suit. Shaitan has deceived us for far too long. Let's defeat him, individually and collectively. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma kun li waliyika al-Hujjati ibn al-Hasan. Salawatuka alayhi wa ala abai. في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا والناصرا والدليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد.
Brothers and sisters, as a reminder, this hall will be used for Matam. So if you can make your exits at this time to go to Hall A, where Matam is continuing, and inshallah we'll recite Ziyarat at the end of Matam. Salawat. Allah.